Today, I'm going to change it up a little bit and talk about my least favorite games from my favorite series. My name is James, and I started this channel simply because I love video games. If that sounds like you, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see more videos just like this one. All right, so my favorite series that I'm going to talk about in this game, or I guess multiple series, there are 6 of them. They are Pikmin, 3D Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Super Smash Bros., Metroid, and Assassin's Creed. People who have been watching me for a while are probably going to be able to guess which games in each of those series are my least favorite. But it'll be fun for me to get to talk about them all at once right here. We're going to get things started with the Pikmin series. This is an obvious one. For me, the worst game in the series is Pikmin 2. I replay the entire Pikmin series every year, and Pikmin 2 is the only one that I don't care to 100%. I think it's too big, and I think that since from Pikmin 1 and Pikmin 3, they took away the time limit, which makes it so that you're kind of lacking a sense of urgency, and it just doesn't really I don't really know how to describe it, but it just doesn't really hit for me. And I was never a huge fan of caves. I felt like they were done a lot better when they brought them back in Pikmin 4. But for me, Pikmin 2 is the worst game in the Pikmin series. And if you want to know how I rank the other games, y'all can check out my Pikmin series ranking that I did a couple months ago. The next series I want to talk about is Super Smash Bros. I played pretty much every Smash Bros. Game right as they came out. My least favorite is Super Smash Bros. Brawl on the Nintendo Wii. And this is another one that I don't think is particularly bad. At the time that it came out, it would have been my favorite, I think, but I've really soured on it over the years. At the time, it was really fun that they added a bunch of new characters, the new items that they added, and all that stuff. They did slow things down a lot from the game that came before it, and made it a lot less competitive and a much more of a party game. But I would still say that if for some reason Super Smash Bros. Brawl is the only Smash Bros. Game that you have access to, I still think it's a lot of fun. Still fun, still worth playing. Up next, I can't make this video without talking about 3D Mario games. And this one is kind of hard for me to pick a least favorite because there's 2 obvious ones at the bottom for me. One of them is Super Mario 64. As somebody who didn't own that game as a kid and then tried to play it late, I played it a little bit at friends' houses and stuff, but I tried to play it mostly, or I guess I did play the whole game when Super Mario 3D All-Stars Collection came out on the Nintendo Switch. And that game controls terribly. And I felt like I was fighting the camera the entire game. It's clunky, and it's definitely not what I want from a 3D platformer. However, they do a lot of things really right. So first 3D Mario game, they kind of set the template for what we're going to see in other 3D Mario games, where they're more of an adventure style game where you run into a world and are completing different objectives for stars, which that same template is what we have all the way through Super Mario Odyssey, which is the most recent 3D Mario game. The other 3D Mario game that I almost didn't even include this one because it's so different from all the other 3D Mario games, and it's Super Mario 3D World. As far as 3D platformers go, this one is more literally like Super Mario Brothers in 3D. Whereas the goal of the level is to walk from one end of the level to the end of the level and get the flag. It's not particularly challenging. I just find that objective in 3D to be very boring. Up next, we've got the Metroid series, and the representative I chose from the Metroid series is Metroid Other M. I feel like this one was kind of an obvious pick. If it wasn't Other M, I could have probably gone with the original NES Metroid or the Game Boy version of Samus Returns. But I never really played either of those, and I do think that both of those were very good for their time. Part of the reason that Metroid Other M is the representative of the Metroid series for me is because I got that game right when it came out, and I remember starting it up and saying, like, what the hell is this? It didn't help that I had never played a 2D Metroid game, but I started it up thinking it was going to be similar to Metroid Prime, and it was actually a whole mess, that whole game. Honestly, I really couldn't even tell you what happens in the game and what I didn't like about it because it's been a very long time. However, I can say that that's a game that I would like to revisit. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get to it, but it is on my very long list of games that I would like to go back to as a reviewer. Up next is The Legend of Zelda. This one was actually very tough to choose one. I actually chose 3. All for different reasons. The 3 games that I chose, I'll say all 3 games and then I'll talk about each of them individually. Zelda 2, Spirit Tracks, and Triforce Heroes. Zelda 2 is very hard. It's also the first, so Zelda, the original Legend of Zelda, and then the third game, A Link to the Past, kind of follow the same like structure in a way as far as being a top-down Zelda game where you can run around the world and fight enemies and collect items. And Zelda 2 just felt too much like it was trying to reinvent the wheel. And I feel like that and it just being very hard kind of make it the black sheep of the series. The next one, on the other hand, is Spirit Tracks, whereas this one, by this point, they knew how to make good Zelda games. And they added trains, and they make you walk with the stylus. And I think one of the biggest issues with Spirit Tracks is that it felt like they had an idea for a Zelda game, but then they just tried to cram the DS functionality into it. It'd be like, oh, we're going to make you solve puzzles by drawing pictures on the touchscreen and doing, and you're going to walk by moving the direction that you want to go on the touchscreen and all this stuff. And so anyway, it felt very forced, the DS functionality there. And then we've also got Triforce Heroes, which is completely different in its own ways. It's a 3DS multiplayer game that you can play the game solo, but it's really not designed to be played that way. There's not really much of a story or anything. I feel like Triforce Heroes changes the experience so much by making it multiplayer centric that I just can't, which a lot of people will just even say that it doesn't even count as a Zelda game, which if it doesn't count, then I guess Spirit Tracks would take the cake on worst Zelda game. And finally, that brings us to Assassin's Creed. And when I was thinking about this, I thought there was a very clear winner, and then I remembered some other games too. So the one that I thought was a very clear winner was going to be Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And what I really don't like about the game is that the game is huge and they really took out a lot of the stealth stuff, that you can't really be a sneaky assassin anymore. The game is built around like raiding villages and stuff, so that wasn't really great for me. The story was very repetitive and way too long, and so you would think that Assassin's Creed Valhalla would easily be my pick for the Assassin's Creed series. However, I remembered that Assassin's Creed Chronicles exists. And I almost didn't even include Chronicles because it's technically 3 separate games that get sold as like one package. And I've only played one of those. I've played Assassin's Creed Chronicles China, but I have not played Russia or India. And those games are just so different. Those games are 2D side scrollers with much more stealth and puzzles like built into them, whereas the mainline Assassin's Creed games are much more like historical action games. And so, if you're only looking at the historical action side of it, Assassin's Creed Valhalla would probably be my pick. If you're looking at anything with the Assassin's Creed name on it, Assassin's Creed Chronicles would probably be my pick. Anyway, guys, that's all I have for today. If you liked this video, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to leave a comment letting me know what your favorite game series are and what your least favorite entry from those series are as well. Until next time, the best way to keep up with me is on Twitter and on Instagram at James_Solar. Thanks, guys.